This is iRacing.
Well, the Grand Prix Legends for Season 2 here in 2026 has already gotten underway last time in the Eifel region of Germany, as the Nürburgring combined saw a test for everyone. But now we go to a land down under to New South Wales in Australia, as Mount Panorama is the setting for round 2 of Season 2 2026. Hello everybody, welcome along to the Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Alex Goldschmidt. Joining me in the booth today is Joe Black. Our director behind the scenes is Christian Deploy, with cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Now, Mount Panorama, known as the Mountain or simply Bathurst, is one true test for everybody, no matter what car you put them behind the wheel of. But if you want a bit of a refresher about this particular circuit, let's take you on board with the GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Mount Panorama Circuit. Most drivers simply refer to this place as Bathurst, with it being located just to the southwest of the city's major hub. But most ominously, and perhaps appropriately, it's been nicknamed the Mountain. With more than 500 feet of elevation change over the course of a lap, it's easy to understand why. Though originally built for racing, it's become a street circuit over time, with the track itself used for regular traffic and featuring residential housing all along the roads. This makes this 4-mile, 23-turn course incredibly unique in the world of racing. In the past, the track has hosted a variety of types of cars, including open-wheelers. But modern safety standards means that most competitive racing has now been limited to sports cars and touring cars. However, the dangers are very real due to the incredibly high speeds and lack of runoff throughout much of the circuit. The quickest parts are the run up the mountain straight towards Griffin's Bend, and then the flat-out blast back down the Conrad Straight and into the chase. This chicane was added in the late 80s to break up the run down to Murray's Corner. But while most chicanes are derided for ruining the character of a track, the terrifying speed as you approach it and the general difficulty make it fit right in with Bathurst challenges. However, the toughest portions are undoubtedly along the mountain itself, with notorious corners like the Cutting, Brock's Skyline, the Dipper, and Forest's Elbow. In fact, one of the more unique worries of this course is that all of these parts are so narrow that track blockages due to wrecks are not uncommon in the first few laps. The Australian fans often line the fences and hillsides to witness the daredevil spectacle of drivers trying to claim King of the Mountain. You can't blame them with how rare of a sight a track like Bathurst is today.
Well, Joe, everyone knows Bathurst. It's a true classic, but what can the drivers expect around this 3.86-mile circuit here today?
They can expect a lot of fireworks, Alex. There's a lot of different opportunities for blind corners, lots of different opportunities for mistakes to be made. It's a true test of the driver's ability, and I think it's one of the jewels of the racing calendar. I'd put it up around the likes of Le Mans for how iconic it is. The 6.21 kilometre circuit that has 23 miles, almost reaching 90 years old. It is certainly the spectacle, and well, it is 100% the best circuit in the Australian region.
Yeah, 23 turns, 11 to the left, 12 to the right, runs anti-clockwise. First opened back in March of 1938. We've got a bumper grid for this second round of Season 2, but before we get on to timed qualifying here for this 25-lap race, let's take you through the up-to-date standings. First of all, starting with the F1 division, and it is the defending champion, Audrius Valentasius, who has got Topi Kortiniemi 5 points behind, and then it's Japan's Togo Hisada rounding out your top 3. Seb Trixier and Kevin Verbruggen round out the top 5, covered by 14 points. Nicola Cocchi, Leo Sequeiro, Gary Ho, Josephine Becker, and Pedro Temeladri round out your top 10 in the standings for the F1 drivers. What's things looking like in F2 at the moment, Joe, after the opening round?
Well, of course, it's all going to be close because there was only one round in it. Victor Alonso Diaz will be leading the way with 33 points, just the 3 ahead of Doug Cloud in second, Tobias Hunvey in third place, and Andres Bruno in fourth. Rafael Camacho finds himself in fifth with Emilio Pradera in sixth, and then Brandon White, Angel Granda, Sergei Borodkin, and Carlos Espeso will all round out the top 10 there.
And finally, we go to the Nations Cup. It's Ukraine leading the way on 60 points, ahead of Finland with 55, Japan rounding out the top 3. France and the Netherlands round out the top 5, ahead of Italy, Spain, Hong Kong, Germany, and Argentina. And what's more, these plucky Lotus 49s always provide great racing. No wings, and definitely more to the case, Joe. We have to look at the race details. Round 2 out of 12, 25 laps, open setups, no spare car. It's a drive-through penalty at 17 incident points, and then disqualification at 25 incident points. Plus also the big thing that we need to talk about here at Mount Panorama. The barriers are very close when you go into Griffin's Bend, then into the cutting, then all the way through to Brock's Skyline at the top of the hill. This is going to be a true test. And at the moment, it's overcast. Air temperature at the moment, 20 degrees centigrade, 26 on the track temp. There's a bit of a blustery wind. It's going to the south. It's 16 miles an hour. And so visibility here in qualifying is going to be very tricky to negotiate.
Certainly is indeed. 4:30 left in the session, and the drivers trying to fly it through Mount Panorama at the moment to set their lap times on the board at the moment. Audrius Valenteus with no lap time just yet, but of course the man that picked up the Triple Crown last time out is going to hope to back up some of that prowess.
Yeah, so we are going to see how he gets on this circuit. 50% nigh on will be at full throttle. And especially, well, we'll have to watch for seeing if there might be any potential redresses when we get to the chase at turns 19 to 21. So you can bet that these drivers are going to be very much wheel to wheel, as Valentatius comes out of Forest Elbow, hammer down through into the chase. Nicola Cocchi is the first one to set a lap time in 2 minute 5.304. Togo Hisada, the man from Japan, straight away goes nearly 0.3 quicker on a 2:05.032. Topi Kortiniemi, the first one to dive into the fours, a 4.78 from the Finn in the number 2 car. Seb Trixier goes into P5 as we've got 3.5 minutes in qualifying left to go. And more to the point, folks, we have 45 cars on the grid today.
Definitely do an absolute bumper grid, and this is going to be a bumper race. Audrius Valenteus, then his effort is a 2:04.762, which goes quicker than Kortuniemi by 0.019. Those two locked in battle at the top of the field. They have been before, and they will fight again. Togo Hisada just off them, 2.5 tenths of a second off of the back of Kortuniemi for the top two, for the front row. He's going to look to throw himself just that little bit forward. Kevin Verbruggen not too far off as well. He's 400 off of Togo Hisada, and they're going to give it another go, but above a 2 minute lap time means that there's going to look like big gaps between all of the drivers, but with Kortuniemi and Valenteus split by just 0.019, it's very tight between the two.
Yeah, 27 drivers, including now Sandeep Bandaji in the number 37, who's just gone 23rd. Make that 28. So 17 drivers with less than 2.25 minutes left to go here in qualifying have got to put a lap down. But sometimes here at Mount Panorama, when you've got everyone going to Griffin's Bend at turn 2 off of Mountain Straight on the opening lap of this race, expect, as Joe rightly put earlier on, fireworks, and a lot of contact may ensue, which means that a few drivers might find themselves in pit lane. No spare cars, so if you've got 3 wheels on that wagon, it's game over here for round 2 of the series as Togo Hisada down to Murray's Corner here at turn number 23. Can he go better than a 2 minute 5.032? He powers out of the final corner, sideways, across the line he goes, and it's a 2:04. 2.29 by Togo Hisada, and he's over half a second quicker than Valenteus. Cortiniemi across the line on that particular occasion does not improve. He was slower, but Kevin Verbruggen's jumped up into second position in the number 6 with a 2-minute 4.708, but Togo Hisada is absolutely flying.
Togo Hisada absolutely flying with just under 1 minute left in this qualifying session. What can Audrius Valenteus do? He's going to put himself on the front row, but not at the top of the field. Togo Hisada's 2:04.2 lap time looks like that is going to be the one to beat, as Valenteus is done. Jorge Nieva then, he's in 7th, and he'll hope to jump up into the .4s, and he will need to find just over a second if he wants a challenge with Hisada, but it looks like the Japanese driver has absolutely hooked up a stonking lap here in Panorama.
Yeah, so we are coming down to the final 30 seconds of the session, and what a lap from Togo Hisada. As now Jorge Nieva sideways out of the final corner, currently P7 in the number 3 car. Does he improve? No, not quite. But Ricardo Espanella Martinez in the number 13, yet to set a lap time, goes P11 on that effort. But more to the point, nearly 2.4 seconds slower than Togo Hisada as qualifying has been completed. But stone the crows here in Mount Panorama as Togo Hisada with one of the most convincing and speediest laps around this circuit. We're getting set for 25 laps here at Mount Panorama. So let's go through the grid. Togo Hisada starts from pole position. Audrius Valenteus on the front row. Kevin Verbruggen and Torpi Cortiniemi. Row 2. Row 3, Seb Trixier, Nicola Cocchi. Then we've got Jorge Nieva and Gary Ho rounding out the top 4 rows. Raul Rosses Guardia and Ricardo Ruiz rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, that's the top 10, and just outside it'll be Ricardo Espanella Martinez in 11th alongside Pedro Temaladri. Mickey Friesen in 13th alongside Bill Tyler. Mikael Zavala will be with Glenn Becker on the 8th row of the field, and then Doug Cloud, John Olsen, Laust Olsen and Carl Ridley will round out the top 20. And just to round out the field, Eric Leukel, Ryan Turcott, Alan Graham, Yannis Carpentier, Andreas Hecht, Tobias Honvey, Will Lamb, Robert Plumley, Sandeep Banerjee and Kurt Clapper. We've still got a number of drivers to go through, as we say, 45 on this grid. Nick Bubat alongside Campbell Wallace, Thomas Tuba, Eki Anderson, Andres Bruno, Angus Sweeney, Zhang Zhang, and then all the drivers that didn't set lap times: Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar, Jason Clapper, Michael Grissinger, and then just to round out this field, Tyler Sheaf, Bo Poulter, Jason Ayers, then Renato Yankee and John Terry to round out the field. But, 45 cars, as we say, an absolute bumper grid, and it should be a great time.
Yes, indeed, as we are just waiting for Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar to line up. He's now readied up on the grid, so 45 cars set to go into battle for 25 laps here at the Mountain in New South Wales for round 2 of Grand Prix Legends live here on GSRC as we wait for the revs to build. And in a moment's notice, here we go, underway. Good start by Togo Hisada from the inside of the front row as Valenteus gets a little bit of a later start as they head into Hell Corner for the first time. Battle side by side. And that was between Jorge Nieva, who's got past Nicola Cocchi through at turn number 1. Everyone at the moment, round about the top 30, have gotten through so far as we head down Mountain Straight into Griffin's Bend, the sweeping right-hander here at turn 2, and then it's the run uphill through the cutting. Hisada with a good couple of car lengths lead. Kevin Verbruggen, Topi Cortiniemi, Seb Tixier, Cocchi now through back on Nieva, and now they're nearly going 3 wide into Solomon Park for the first time. Well, into the cutting, you've got to be very, very careful, tight to the wall. But the barriers, they will bite back at a moment's notice. And still at the minute, well, Zhang Zhang got a black flag and has ended up in the pit lane. But that is the only one out of the 45 drivers that is still circulating. Everyone seems to get through so far. But still, as we go through Brock Skyline, Hisada is basically the guinea pig here, Joe, because he's the one that's got to make his way he's got to base the car on the grip and everything that's in front of him, especially with limited visibility, because we know that Valenteus, the defending Season 1 champion here in 2026, and there's a bit of a lunge from Kevin Verbruggen going into Forest Elbow. It's about how Hisarda paces this race. It's going to be fast and frantic for another 24 laps after this.
You'd imagine so. It's very, very close between the top few at the moment, and you'd expect it to be even closer, as you say. Togo Hisarda, the guinea pig, early on in this one, mainly because they haven't quite worked out where all of the grip is. They can barely see, as that is going to be wide from Kevin Verbruggen. Through goes Toby Courtiniemi, up a position and into third place. Seb Tixier just waiting in the background, but that does create a gap now between the top two and the rest of the field. 1.2 splitting the Ukrainian driver in second with the Finn in third, and there's Seb Tixier in his full motion rig. He's in fifth place at the moment, looking for the move on Kevin Verbruggen on the outside line, but can't quite get it done into Hell Corner. He's going to try and set himself up out of the next few though, and it's a pretty decent exit, all things considered, onto the mountain straight. Then the Quarry Bend, the next braking zone, and Seb not quite close enough, but he is starting to threaten Verbruggen, and he'll feel as though the chance for the top two is starting to fade away already, with the gap now up to 1.5.
Yeah, looks like we've had a couple of mechanical black flags. The first casualty, Kurt Clapper in the 28, and also Renato Yankee in the number 42. They have both had mechanicals, so it might be the case that a couple of drivers have ended up with either three wheels on the wagon, or a wagon not really, very much a shade of its former self, as Valentasius closing in on Togo Hisarda as we go through into McPhillamy, and then the run to Brock Skyline here on lap 2 out of 25. And Jan Zhang has also had a mechanical black flag thrown by the server, so down to 42. And that's only in around about the first 6 miles that we've had of racing action here, as again, you can see how aggressive Valentasius is being whilst he's trying to close in on Togo Hisarda. Through into Forest Elbow, and now it's going to be on the hammer. Get that speed up very, very quickly and try and build a gap. And we've got a replay. Now, this is Renato Yankee. This is going down into the chase, and he's going to dive to the inside, and there's contact, and bang. 1 into 2 provides skittles, and both of them spin around, and then he gets collected afterwards. We've got a couple of other drivers that have just hit trouble. Doug Cloud in the number 29 and Campbell Wallace in the 36. Ekai Anderson has also hit trouble. So there are a few drivers finding the early goings here at Mount Panorama very, very difficult. So that is 5 drivers with a mechanical black flag, meaning damage. But Valentasius is still keeping Togo Hisarda very, very honest. He's just pumped in the fastest lap of the race so far as we go on to lap 3. 2 minutes, 5.64 from the man from Japan.
Yeah, at the moment, Togo Hisarda just under 0.08 of a second ahead of Aldrius Valenteus in terms of the lap times, just under 0.2 of a second. But as they headed over the mountain straight, as they threw themselves over the it's a rise and then a dip, so it's going to unsettle the cars, and that meant that Aldrius Valenteus dropped a little bit back. You can see it's basically blind over the crest as it's side by side here. Eric Aloykal in the number 22 having a fight with Laust Olsen, and he is going to get ahead of Olsen, taking the position off of the 17, as slightly further back Tobias Hornby and Will Lamb, and as well as Mikhail Zabala fighting away. We're going to get another replay in this race, and it'll be Doug Cloud. What has happened to the American driver? And well, I mean, there's a couple of blind spots you don't want to crash. There's one of them.
Yeah, that was through the latter part of the S's heading into Forest Elbow, so the man from the USA hits trouble. Angus Sweeney in the 43 has just been given a mechanical black flag, but Doug Cloud's front end completely rearranged, and that means it's game over from the man for the USA. So Tobias Harnby in the number 30 from Sweden has got Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar, who's up 15 spots, qualified down in 38th position, and is the biggest charger in the race so far. Apart from that, Jason Clapper, who started 39th, now runs in the penultimate position of the top 30 in 29th place. But still, the visibility is coming to the drivers. There's Kyle Ridley, one of the locals, in the number 20. He's in 24th position. Seb Tixier, in the meantime, looking to the inside of Kevin Verbruggen into Murray's corner. And that could be the move completed by a whisker by the Frenchman, as you can see in full VR. But look, Verbruggen still to the outside. Topi Courtiniemi new fastest lap of the race. A 2-minute 5.192, and Seb Tixier finally completes the move at turn 1 at Hell Corner. But look, you've got the likes of Nicola Cocchi and also Jorge Nieva closing in on Kevin Verbruggen. It's a 4-car line going down Mountain Straight with Nieva with nearly 2 wheels on the grass as they approach Griffin's Bend. And now we ride on board with the the man under the Palestinian nomenclature with regards to countries. And we get this wonderful onboard view on the Lotus 49 from the right-hand side of the driver cockpit through into the cutting. Then you start to open up the throttle, put it down, and go up the gears now through into Quarry. And that is a moment there. That is Kevin Verbruggen, who's just hit the barriers. Oh, shame for the man from the Netherlands. I think he took a bit too much exit speed when he tried to open up the throttle, and he banged the barriers with the sidewalls.
Certainly did. Big mistake from Kevin Verbruggen that drops him a few positions. We're going to get a replay of what happened. And, well, this is going to be Angus Sweeney, who just slides off. And that is how easy it can be to absolutely ruin your race. One small slide led to one big incident for himself. And that found himself out with a meatball flag. And we're unlikely to see him throughout the course of the rest of this race, unfortunately. So Angus Sweeney out of the race. He joins the other 6 drivers currently in the pit lane, and Epi Anderson going to become another one. He's picked up a meatball as well. And, well, there are so many of them just making those small errors. And, well, those small errors can have big consequences. In the meantime, Courtiniemi is back within the DRS range, quote-unquote DRS, of course, if it was the modern cars, but there's a replay of Kevin Verbruggen slamming into the wall.
Angus Sweeney lost it under braking going into Griffin's Bend at turn 2, and that was a hard hit, so both left side wheels were flailing, which means that they were disconnected from the steering rack and the drive shafts on the front and rear of the vehicles. That was it, game over for the Aussie. 39 drivers still as we hit 5 laps here at Mount Panorama. Mickey Frierson, the man from the USA, doing a good job trying to move up the order, but he's currently in 14th position. Kyle Ridley in 23rd, having a big battle with the likes of Will Lamb, Tobias Harney, Robert Plumley, Jason Clapper is right there in 27th position. He's trying to go to the outside of Plumley. He's tried to get through, and that's a great move. You don't see that very often here at Hull Corner. But now it's going to be the run down Mountain Straight. We could nearly see a 3-wide incursion very shortly. I see that some drivers might be looking to thread the eye of the needle as Jason Clapper fires it into Griffin's Bend here at turn 2. He's gone round the outside, but he's lost out to Plumley in the meantime. But then Ryan Turcott, Andreas Hecht, Sandeep Banderjee, who round out the top 30. They're not that far away. And what we're seeing here, Joe, is a lot of opportunities for drivers, but at the meantime, at the front end of the field, who was that just slapped the barriers? I mean, it might have been possibly, well, Ikai Anderson has ended up in the pit lane, so we're down to 37 runners and riders. Just before we saw that moment that somebody had at the same place where Kevin Verbruggen, who's now in P8, hit the sidewalls on the barriers. Togo Hisada has now opened up a gap of nearly 9/10 of a second as Glenn Becker also running on the VR. Oh, like the smiley happy faces on the VR headset there for the man from the USA. Currently running P16. We've got a replay coming up now. And this is going to be John Terry. And this is coming through Brock's Skyline after McPhillamy. And there's the leaders coming through. John Terry gets caught out and scrapes the front nose of the car against the barriers heading into Skyline. And that is his race done and dusted. Ikai Anderson looks to have repaired the damage on his car. So as long as it doesn't involve the wheels, as Jason Clapper looking to the outside of Robert Plumley again, this time at the chase, and he's got the move done. That was heroic from the man from the USA to get through, as Robert Plumley drops down the order, and he's got Ryan Turcott to his outside through at Murray's. Some great racing down at the mid-pack of the field, but still with 38 cars remaining out of 45, these laps might feel like an eternity in these Lotus 49 cars, but it really gives you the opportunity to pick your place where you might want to overtake, and something that you can't do in a GT3 car, you can do here in a Lotus 49, as this race has proved so far.
Certainly, and that it comes down to the new cars that they are having to learn as they go, and they are learning that they can take the opportunities in these cars. There was also, when we had a look at that replay of John Terry, there was one of the leaders who went off. I believe that to be Topi Korteniemi, who had a small moment. He ended up going almost off of the road, and well, he did in fact briefly go off, but managed to save himself and did lose a chunk of time to Valenteus and Hisada ahead. The gap between himself and the top two now 1.5 seconds. He did the hard yards to make his way back into range there. He's going to have to do it all over again to make his way back within range of the leaders, and that can be really off-putting, really.
Yeah, a bit of a wobble there for Espinela Martinez. The man really on the move, is up 20 places now. Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar in the number 7 car is now up to 18th position. He is scything through the opposition. Of course, we do see this man in the Skip Barber Race Series, and he's going for another place. Could this be position number 15? Yes, it is. He gets through on Eric Leukel on sheer pace down into the chase. So that is Ricardo Espinela Martinez getting through. So Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar, as we've got another replay coming up here. So this is going to be, we ride on board with the flying fin Topi Korteniemi, and then they get through, and then, oh yeah, he just has to straight line the chicane at the skyline and into the S's. So Topi would have served a slow down penalty, but he's got to gather himself back up again. He's nearly 2 seconds off of Togo Hisada. Kevin Verbruggen is now closing in on Gary Ho, and this just goes to show how competitive this is. So can Verbruggen make his way back up the order? We've got another replay coming up shortly, and here it is. This is going to be Espinela Martinez into turn 1, and he spins. Oh, back end swaps with the front, and also off goes Eric Leukel at the same time in the 22. They were battling for position, and that has really paid to them, because that's allowed Pedro Temeladri, the man from Argentina who's currently P10 in the F1 standings at the moment, to run away a little bit with P14. He's about a second up the road from Espinela Martinez, but Hoglar is closing in on Laust Olsen in the number 17 car, who, funnily enough, is running in P17 at the moment, as Verbruggen still tries to apply the pressure to Gary Ho as we are on lap 7 out of 25. The track temperature has improved and increased to 26 degrees centigrade, but the overcast is not so significant, as here comes Valentasius on Togo Hisada to the outside of the chase for the race lead. And can he get through? Yes! Brilliant stuff though by Valentasius, and Togo Hisada nearly goes 2 wheels on the grass coming out of the chase. And he's going to have the inside line to keep the lead through Murray's corner. But will the Ukrainian look to power around the outside? He's going to give it a try here. But Togo Hisada is neck and neck with the Ukrainian. The Japanese samurai at the front end of the field with that brilliant lap in qualifying. Is he going to lose out? Now Valentasius ahead by a nose. They run down Mountain Straight, and this is bringing in Topi Korteniemi. They do say that 2's company, but here in Grand Prix Legends we call it 3's a crowd, because Korteniemi is flying.
Certainly is, and I didn't give him enough credit for what happened in that incident earlier on, because it looked as though he might have lost control of the car, but he had full control when he went off of the circuit, which means that whilst he lost time, he's making his way up as Kevin Verbruggen gets through on Gary Ho for 7th place. The opportunities for the number 6 opening back up after that mistake that he made earlier on. 2.1 the gap between himself and Jorge Nieva, but he is so much quicker. He's closing at a rate of knots. He set his personal best last time out of a 206.019. That would be 4/10 quicker than Jorge Nieva on the previous lap time. So expect him to catch up to Nieva very quickly. Big mistake from Topi Korteniemi. That'll lose him a bit more time. Somehow doesn't look like there was any damage on the car, but he's been able to just recover it nice and quickly, and he's absolutely flying at the moment. really getting so very close to all of the barriers here as he tries to catch the top two. But at the moment, Hisada and Valenteus, their only focus will be on each other. They won't worry about Courteniemi just yet, as this is a little bit further down, as Lau Solson remains side by side with Eric Leukel. And Leukel will be through in the end on the inside, just taking the position back alongside, though, for the position behind is Lau Solson, who's trying to fight with Mikael Zabala. And in the end, Zabala took the position too.
Rodriguez Hoglar is ahead of these guys, and well, we have had a change for the race lead. Valenteja is ahead now of Togo Hisada as they approach nearly 145 miles an hour into Murray's Corner. We complete lap number 8 out of 25. And the Ukrainian and the Japanese driver, they have been battling at the front end of the field, but Togo Hisada up until that point when Valenteja's got round the outside of the chase. The Japanese driver will probably think, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to play his game. I'm going to stay behind him and wait for my opportunity, because there are still 16 laps of racing left to go here at Mount Panorama. So we ride on board on the left-hand side of the engine bank of the most dominant engine in in racing history when it comes to single-seaters, of course, the Ford-Cosworth DFV. And these cars really are flying around the circuit here at Mount Panorama. When it's not used as a racing circuit, it is actually a public road, and the maximum speed I think you can travel is 50 kilometers an hour, which is 30 miles an hour. But look at Togo Hisada. He is not holding back. He is being just as aggressive as Andreas Valentejas, but Topi Courteniemi is starting to close that gap after that slight drama where the back end wanted to swap sides with the front at McPhillamy at 180 kilometers an hour. Down we go through Skyline, through into the S's and into the Dipper before the very tight left-hander here at Forest Elbow. We've had another mechanical black flag, and that's gone to Tyler Sheaf in the number 38 car. But we do now have effectively 40 cars. So John Terry and Campbell Wallace having minimal damage. I mean, obviously, John Terry had that scrape with the wall with the nose of the car, but look at Togo Hisada. He is now right in the wheel tracks into the chase, but can he go late on the brakes into the second part of the complex? Not quite, but can he get the run? He's gone 2 wheels on the grass with the throttle fully lit, and he's still going to give it his all. There's one thing about Togo Hisada. He is definitely the man that puts an excitement spin on every race he partakes in.
There's a lot of drivers at the top of the field that can do that, but Togo Hisada always seems to be one in the thick of the fights, and he always, every time he jumps in the interview room, he's always just destroyed after the end of a race, just because of the pure endurance of having to fight in it. But he absolutely loves it, and we absolutely love watching Togo Hisada racing, sitting right in the wheel tracks of the Ukrainian ahead. He just has a dip out as they head into Quarry Bend, but does not take the opportunity to make the move. He doesn't feel as though he needs to at this point in time. We're not even halfway through the 25-lap race. We've just ticked over to double figures in laps, and so he can just manage himself sitting in behind. Topi Courteniemi, though, will be pushing him and really applying the pressure on Hisada ahead. He's managed to work his way back into 0.3 of a second of the number 4, and well, he's had a topsy-turvy race, and he'll hope to improve upon the position that he finds himself in right now. Guardia makes his way through on Ruiz for 9th and 10th place. Hisada, though, is sitting right in behind Valenteus. You feel as though there's an opportunity waiting for the Japanese driver. You feel as though there's a small mistake that they can eke out of the 23 corners that Andreas Valenteus will do, and you feel as though Hisada will be ready to strike for anything.
Yeah, it's currently in Japan at the moment where Togo Hisada is. It's 11 o'clock at night, so he's definitely going into the witching hours as our man from Japan as they go through Forest Elbow here on lap 10 out of 25. And still, Topi Courteniemi is still keeping himself in the hunt very much right now. And bearing in mind, he finished second at Nürburgring Combined at the opening round of the series. But down to the chase we go once again. The top 3 covered by 6.5 of a second as Togo Hisada gets very aggressive on the curbs on the turn into the chase, trying to minimise that gap as much as humanly possible, so it gives him a good run at Valentejas up front, who is looking for 2 wins back-to-back this season. And bearing in mind, when you look at the fact that Valentasius did do some back-to-back runs last season, bearing in mind, Brands Hatch and Senaton, he won back-to-back in season 1. Then he did the three-peat at Donington, Oschersleben, and Interlagos last season. So any of these drivers at the front end of the field, but then look at Seb Tixier, who's about 2.1 seconds behind, but here we go into Quarry at turn 2. Hisada in the wheel tracks of Valentasius. Cortiniemi is catching them as they now head up to the cutting. So this is going to be very, very crucial. It's about that Lotus 49 chess piece puzzle that you've got to unpick. Myself and a good friend, a good member of the commentary team here at GSRC, Craig King, he said, well, when we were commentating on Skippy Barbers the other night, he said rook to b3, which gave me a little bit of a giggle at the same time. However, Valentasius, Cortiniemi scraped the wall with the sidewalls at Sulman Park. He was very, very lucky as John Olsen is trying to get through on Laust Olsen, so different spelling on both surnames, so not related. This is the battle with, I think, well, up the road from them is Mikael Zabala in 16th position, but that's a bit of a run wide there from Laust Olsen from Denmark. Meantime, Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar is now officially in the top 15. He's made up 23 places. If that is not a drive through the field, I don't know what is. And meantime, Glenn Becker has just lost out to Ricardo Espinela Martinez in the battle for P13. Hoglar is catching them. He's about 0.7 of a second quicker than Glenn Becker, but Martinez is holding a bit more pace. There is the man from Spain. Oh, he's very, very close to wall. He has decided, well, let's try and do a top gear from the rear, but there's been drama a little bit further back. Pedro Temeladri and Yanis Carpentier, they are both in the pits. Temeladri is going to be out of the top 10 come the end of this race. Drama from for the Argentinian in P10 in the standings after the opening round at the Nürburgring combined last time out.
Unfortunate there. As well, it claims another victim, and Ricardo Ruiz has just picked up his own meatball flag as well. Unfortunate for those two, as the top three split by less than half a second, which shows quite how close it's getting at the top of the field. In fact, Hisada's not even a tenth off the back of the Ukrainian driver at the top of the field, and he will find an opportunity past Valentasius, as we will see what happened to Ricardo Ruiz, who was in the top few, or in the top 10 at the very least. So the Spaniard just clipping the wall on the exit, and well, it just went from bad to worse. He clipped the wall and then he went sent spinning round, and the 19 with a decent chunk of damage now. Didn't look like too much of an impact, but the front nose cone off, and that will be himself outside of the top 10, outside of the top 20, maybe even outside of the top 30.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. But still, we are nearly at half distance here for round 2 of Grand Prix Legends Season 2 2026 here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Thank you very much for everyone that's watching along as we still continue into the New South Wales overcast weather locality here at this 6.213 kilometre circuit. Mikael Zabala and has now become the latest victim. They are now starting to drop like flies. So Mikael Zabala, what has happened to the number 25 who qualified in 15th position? He's all the way down now in 34th, so I'm sure that we'll have a replay of that very, very shortly. And to be honest with you, you think Nürburgring combined is difficult, you add Bathurst into the front end of the calendar, well then you got two real titanic tests for the drivers to wrap their heads around. So here is the replay. This is going to be into the cutting. Oh, that's a big hit. Right front takes the brunt of the impact, and that is Mikael Zabala's race done and dusted.
Certainly is unfortunate for Zabala, who becomes the latest victim, which I believe is about to touch double figures in terms of the drivers out of this race. We've got 9 at the moment, at least with meatball flags in the pit lane. So that is very, very unfortunate for him to join that list. It's very unfortunate for the drivers on that list as well. Robert Plumley in the fight right now. He's having a fight with Tobias Hornby. He wants to get the position up ahead, but he can't quite do so. 23rd is where the Briton is going to remain. Hornby stays ahead. Turcotte waits in behind, but it might be a poor exit from the driver ahead of this pack. And there is an opportunity for Hornby, but I believe it's potentially squandered by Plumley, who's going to try and make it so into the final corner, and he's going to try and make that position up into 22nd. He will, and it's 2 by 2 with Banerjee and Turcotte ready to go waiting in the fight. Of course, open setups, don't forget, so they've got the opportunity to fight side by side with different dynamics in the car, and they remain 2 by 2, but a big slide from Hornby drops him the position off of Plumley, drops him the position potentially off of Turcotte and off of Banerjee as well. They might be 3 wide heading down to the next braking zone as they head over the crest and down towards Quarry Bend, but it will be filtered out into 2. Banerjee's just remaining in 24th place, Tuber and Turcotte in behind, so Turcotte's made a big mistake somewhere as Togo Hisada bears down on the back of Audrius Valenteus, once again within 1/10 of a second, and once again the Ukrainian has his mirrors full of Japanese drivers.
Yes, indeed. The white and red, the national colours of the Japanese flag, as we ride on board with Topi Kortiniemi, the Flying Finn, in 3rd position, 2nd in the standings after the opening round, as we can get that wonderful roar of that Ford DFV behind him as we head into Hell Corner. Now it's about putting the power down, waiting, now bury the throttle to the floor, up the gearbox, 5-speed gearbox on these cars as they will go at absolutely high velocity at over 240 kilometers an hour. But look at the slipstream that Topi Kortiniemi's got. He's going to look to the inside of Togo Hisada here at Quarry, but there was not enough room at the inn for the Finn to get through, I'm afraid. But that was a blooming good attempt by Topi Kortiniemi to get through as they now head into the cutting. Kortiniemi very close on the inside wall, as is Togo Hisada. But Audrius Valenteus, the Ukrainian, is still saying, guys, stick behind me. You want to race? Let's leave it for the last couple of laps. And that's exactly what I think might happen, unless Kortiniemi decides to pull the pin and throw the grenade up front.
Yes, it's all about trying to make the fight work. And the way that they've decided to make the fight work, the way that it usually works at the top of the field, they're going to wait and wait and wait. It'll be an agonising one, especially for those who are in the fight who aren't normally at the top of the field. They won't be used to waiting and waiting and waiting, but that is exactly what they're going to have to do. And then later on in the session is where they start to do the fights. We are over halfway through this one now, 14 of 25, so 12 laps to go. And Valenteus, Hisada and Kortiniemi split by 7/10 of a second. Seb Tixier has managed to make his way potentially back into the fight as well. He's got the opportunity. He just needs to make the strike and come back within striking distance of the drivers ahead. He was quicker than Valenteus last time out, and of course the top 3 split by not much, so that will have a knock-on effect on the 2 drivers behind. And of course the driver in 4th place trying to make his way back into the fight. Nicola Cocky probably too far off. Jorge Nieva almost definitely too far off. And then Verbruggen is too focused on the car in behind of Gary Ho, defending from him to worry about anything else. This is a little bit further down. 13th place, Glenn Becker at 6/10 off of the back of Ricardo Espinella Martinez. They've not been split by much all race long. Bill Tyler just ahead of them, the same. So the 10 leads the 13, leads the 18. And Becker will just be watching in those wonderful VR goggles. Bill Tyler and Martinez maybe have a fight, maybe lose a bit of time. And, well, I'm sure we'll see that heart rate from Becker spike currently at 117. Hisada looks to the inside line of the next braking zone, but once again, he can't get through into Quarry Bend. But he is really starting to threaten Valenteus now, and you can tell Valenteus is feeling it because he threw a defensive manoeuvre.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of an opinion to make here because we've got 2 drivers that have made up over 20 places each over the course of the opening 14 laps. We've got 11 to go, including this one as we're currently on lap 15. Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar, I think, might make it into the top 10. You look, he's made up 24 places so far. Jason Clapper, who's in the top 17, has made up 22. So I'm going to make this opinion. I think both of those drivers will be possibly in the top 15 come the end of the race, as Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar, oh, Glenn Becker's beached in the barriers, left rear wheel off, and that is his race done. Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar, now a second behind Bill Tyler, is up 25 places. Who's not to say he might even go a little bit deeper into the lower half of the top 10 by race's end. But here we go again. Togo Hisada to the outside of Valenteus for the race lead into the chase. And the Ukrainian cuts across the front of the Japanese driver through into the chase without a moment's hesitation. And here comes once again Topi Cortiniemi. Seb Tixier is closing the gaps now down between third and fourth to 1.2 seconds. Cortiniemi in the wheel tracks of Hisada, as we're now going to have another replay coming up very shortly. And here it is. And this is going to be the moment for Glenn Becker. It's into Quarry. Oh dear. Now I'm wondering if there might have been an issue because that car unusually turned left when he wanted it to turn right. So whether he's had a steering wheel or a direct drive failure there. And that can just be the case that the bumps here at Mountain Straight can unsettle the car. But look at this. Valenteus going right to left to try and put the sight job on Togo Hisada for the race leaders. They go through into Quarry Bend. Up the hill they go. Here on lap number 16 out of 25, 10 laps to go, which will give us around about 38 miles of racing here at Mount Panorama. But Topi Cortiniemi, he has been patient. He's let the race come to him. He's waited and seen what Valenteus and Hisada have done up in front, and he is just keeping his wits about him. But he's also got to keep a mindful eye on Seb Tixier, who is only 1.1 seconds behind and rounds out the top four so far. But Cortiniemi, at the moment, is doing exactly what he needs to.
He certainly is, and well, it's a stark contrast to the first few laps of this race where he was making the odd mistake, but now he's really found his rhythm, he's really found his flow, and that's what's so important when you are racing around Mount Panorama. You have to find your flow because it is a circuit that is very fast and free-flowing, and so you need to get into the rhythm of things, which is why you might see if a driver makes one mistake, then they're going to make about 4 or 5 mistakes in a sequence before they're able to get themselves on the straight and narrow. Once again, Hisada closer than ever to the back of Valenteus, but once again, not quite close enough to take the opportunity. Cortiniemi waiting in behind, and Tixier, he's been teasing with just being under that 1 second gap, and I think it's going to be another lap where he's just outside, but he is really starting to threaten this top group, and I think Cortiniemi is going to start to think about the number 9 racing in behind. Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar is chasing in on the back of Bill Tyler. Of course, they had one of our lovely VR users for company just a couple of laps ago, but Glenn Becker unfortunately saw himself out of this fight. But Hoglar trying to go for the move on Tyler. This is for 12th place, so it's not quite for all the spoils, but still, he will be on the inside line into the next braking zone, and he doesn't even need the braking zone. He can throw himself through.
That's position number 26 gained as we've got picture-in-picture the battle between Valenteus, Hisada and Cortiniemi for the race lead. Sandeep Bandaji is the latest one with a mechanical black flag, and a second time is struck with Ricardo Ruiz in the number 19, who qualified in 10th position and is effectively down in 33rd place. We are at the moment, I think we've got 9 cars that are in pit lane, and well, Mikhail Zabala's car I think won't be taking to the track anytime soon. 9 laps to go, including this. We're on lap 17 out of 25. And since Valenteus took the lead on lap 8 down into the chase ahead of Togo Hisada, who I have to say that is one of the most dominant qualifying performances I've ever seen on the Grand Prix Legends, 4 tenths quicker than the man that leads the series. And that is going to be Andres Bruno in front of them in the number 34 that they're going to be clearing very, very quickly. So they're now going to hit back market traffic. So we've got a quick replay coming up here, which is Sandeep Bandaji. And this is going to be, into the barriers, and then he gets hit from behind. Oh dear. Talk about insult to injury. You lose the back end, and then you get hit from behind, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in the barriers.
Certainly do, and that was just a case of making a very, very small mistake, and there's somebody behind not quite expecting that. This is where knowing the drivers around you could come to your benefits, because the drivers might not have known Sandeep Banerjee. They might not have known that there could be a mistake drawn out of himself, and then they were caught off guard by the mistake. It can also go the other way, where he can make a mistake you won't quite expect it, despite the fact that you know how well he can race normally, and then you just find yourself caught off guard. Audris Valenteas closed down once again. The main overtaking chance for Togo Hisada appears to be the quarry bend, so he looks as though he's much quicker down a straight. But the number 4 once again watching and waiting in behind the Ukrainian, and he will want to take that opportunity soon, as all 3 of these drivers are matched on pace pretty much. Over the last few laps it's been dipping in and out of the 205.7s, 205.8s, and it's just going up and down and all around. But one thing is consistent, these 3, they have been very, very consistent indeed, and with 8 laps to go, it's anyone's game.
Yeah, very much the case, as Pablo Rodriguez Hogdal with 8 to go is just 2 spots away from the top 10. He's got about a 7-second gap between himself and Mickey Frierson, who rounds out the top 10. We're going to go to another replay briefly. And this is going to be Jason Clapper from the USA. And look at that, all 4 wheels in the air. That's how you do it here at Mount Panorama. You get a little bit of sky underneath as you head through Conrod Straight and into the chase. That was a beautiful slow-mo replay from our director. Big thanks to Christian Deploy for that one. But again, the back marker traffic is going to come into play here. Valenteas is going to be the one that's going to have to read the situation, and then Togo Hisada will have to react accordingly. Topi Courtiniemi is now a little bit further back. He's about 5.5 tenths of a second adrift. Seb Tixier really hasn't been able to get that gap down. So we are seeing that all the way up to 30th position has been lapped by the leaders, as Courtiniemi later on the brakes into Murray's corner. 7 to go this time around, and Valenteas just putting on an absolute clinic of just keeping the car on the racing line, keeping Hisada and Courtiniemi guessing as we go into Hell Corner. And then it's the run up Mountain Straight once again here on lap number 19 out of 25. And there you can see that Valenteas strategically moving, not weaving, I might add, strategically moving the car to keep Hisada guessing. Now into Quarry Bend here at turn 2, and then the run up the hill through into the cutting. And still Hisada, oh, don't tell me you're going to throw it up the inside at turn 3. No, that will never happen on a month of Sundays, even though it is early Saturday afternoon. But more to the point, Hisada is now finding gaps that he might be able to exploit, but he scuffs the right rear tyre sidewall on the left-hand side. As now they're going to go through into Sulman and into McPhillamy. It's now a case of just picking your moments. Hisada, again, like Courtiniemi, has been ultra patient and is waiting for when and if Valenteas makes a mistake. Hisada sideways, as is Valenteas. You could just see how much on the ragged limit, the edge of the limit they are in these cars, and through into Forest Elbow. When you apply the throttle early, it will kick out the tail end to the right hand side, as we just saw with Valenteas trying to apply the power coming onto Conrod Straight following Forest Elbow. This is a very close race here, Joe Black. And you know what? You could put them here for 50 laps. You'd probably have the same kind of dynamic here, as we've got nearly coming up to 6 laps to go. As Hisada goes later on the brakes, all of the top 3 were sideways coming through the left-hander at the beginning part of the chase. Yeah, like I say, if you doubled the race distance, as Courtiniemi looking to stick his nose up the inside of Hisada, tries to go for the move for P2, but the Finn has to wait for it. You could put them out here for 100 laps. You'd still have these top 3 battling tooth and nail. New fastest lap by Valenteas, a 2:05.085, 3 tenths quicker than Hisada. And I think now Valenteas might have a little bit of daylight at the end of the tunnel.
think he may well do. 0.4 of a second at the moment is the difference between these two drivers. Nicola Cocchi on the back of Seb Tixier. A mistake was made somewhere by the number 9, which opened up the door for the Italian to make his way into the fight. He's on the outside, and that's a huge crash. Seb Tixier flying into the barrier. That's an unbelievable crash. Just a little bit of contact between the two. Tixier went flying, and he looked shell-shocked.
Yeah, and it was contact between the sidewalls, right rear, it was the left rear of Tixier to the right front of Cocchi, and then all of a sudden, it was the roller coaster that Seb Tixier did not want to have, and he is out of the race. Drama with 6 to go, as Togo Hisada has closed back in to Aldrius Valenteus. Seb Tixier is going to be absolutely fuming. He was 4th in the standings on 48 points. That is going to drop him down the championship order after this second race out of 12. But the biggest moment of the day so far, Tixier and Cocchi make contact. Tixier over, and like literally he rolled. He was flipping as he went over into as, oh, who's that with the wheel off? That is Raul Rosses Guardia. One wheel off the wagon, the right front is gone. He cannot steer that thing for toffee. He's going to be out.
Yeah, there's more and more mistakes coming in as fatigue will be hitting the drivers, and at the top of the field, no mistakes just yet from the top 3, at least in the last few laps. But, well, they could be coming very, very soon. It is very, very close indeed between the drivers, and Togo Hisada sets the fastest lap of the race as he sets his sights on the lead of this one. And, well, a 2:04.864 will be a good lap in qualifying, let alone the race, but he now sits in the back. And this is the most aggressive. This is the closest he's looked so far. The outside line beckons for the Japanese driver as they head down to Quarry Bend, and he just about holds onto the car over the crest. Can he take the opportunity to take the lead for the first time in this race? The answer is no. Valenteus holds firm, and Hisada runs wide on the exit. Topi Kortanyemi takes the opportunity, and now this is not a fight for first, but Kortanyemi makes it a fight for second. Later on the brakes for Hisada on the inside line. But that does mean that on the exit of the corner, Kortanyemi's able to put his foot to the floor quicker. And it means the Finn makes his way to P2.
Well, that lap from Togo Hisada meant he was the only driver in this race so far to go a sub 2:05 here at Mount Panorama. Oh, scuff of the wall going through into Silman Park by Kortanyemi, which means that Hisada is going to be all over him like a rash as they headed to Brock Skyline. And now down into the Dipper and the S's. As you can just see a little bit sideways there for Kortanyemi. He was all over the shop. The back end didn't know what it wanted to do there. It went out to the left, then went out to the right. As Hisada to the inside shows his nose at Forest Elbow. 5 laps to go. It's going to be 4 next time around. And Aldrius Valenteus has got the opportunity. It was an opportune moment for Togo Hisada to go into Quarry Bend round the outside, but here he is at full speed. The car bouncing off into the air as he's going to go wheel to wheel with Kortanyemi, retake second position. Kortanyemi had 2 wheels on the grass, and now the race for the victory gets underway in earnest, but Kortanyemi straight on the back of Hisada down into Murray's corner. He switches to the outside. Can he get the switch back? No. Hisada takes the tight racing line through the apex at turn 23, and now we will have 4 to go. Valenteus has a 1.1 second lead. If Hisada was half a second back, he'd have more of an opportunity to get that slipstream, and now he's powerless.
Yeah, powerless indeed. There's over a second between Valenteus and Hisada at the very top of the field. Kortanyemi is going to get closer and closer to the back of the Japanese driver, just over a tenth off of the back at the moment, and he's really trying to pressure him right now. He feels as though the race win could still be on, but he feels as though at the same time he needs to make his way past Hisada as soon as he possibly can. Hisada, though, to his credit, has closed down in the first couple of sectors on this racetrack, and he's got the 6/10 gap back towards Aldrius Valenteus, 6th or 7th. 6 or 7 tenths of a second, the difference between the two, but Topi Kortanyemi within 2 tenths of a second. Always, he's really trying to pressure right now, and I think at the moment he won't want to make the move. He'll want to make Togo Hisada burn everything that he's got to catch back up to Valenteus, and then he can give it his best shot at trying to fly past.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Joe. It just goes to show, and I'm looking at the list of drivers that are in the pit lane. Alan Graham, Seb Tixier, Raul Rossesgardia, Sandeep Banderjee, Eki Anderson, Glenn Becker, Janice Carpentier, Tyler Sheaf, Campbell Wallace, John Terry, Angus Sweeney, Doug Cloud, Kurt Clapper and Jan Zhang, which puts us at 31 cars still running. More back marker traffic for the leaders to get through on. Jason Clapper now up into 14th position, and he's closing in on John Olsen. Meantime, I did say about Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar. He's up a whopping 29 places, and he's only 4.3 seconds behind Mickey Frierson, who's now in 8th place. I did say that maybe that the two biggest movers might be in the top 15. We've got 4 laps to go here at Mount Panorama. And those drivers have kept their nose clean. They've been picking off drivers as Clapper really on the back of John Olsen as they head into Brock Skyline and then into the S's and the Dipper before we go into Forest Elbow. Jason Clapper has got a really good opportunity to get past the number 12. They're both sideways through the S's. There is no give here at Mount Panorama, and Togo Hisada and Topi Cortiniemi are within 7/10 of Valentasius, who still continues to lead as Clapper's going to get the overrun here, and he gets through. Mistake from Olsen, who went sideways through into Forest Elbow. Clapper through and away and clear down Conrod for 13th.
Yeah, Jason Clapper building up that gap, and you can see how poor the visibility will be out there for the drivers. That'll be something to speak to them about post-race if they do come into the interview room, and I'm expecting at least one of them, because Togo Hisada loves to have a word with us. So stick around just to find out how difficult it is out there on the circuit, because it's difficult in Bathurst anyway, let alone when you've got the fog surrounding the circuit and encoating it, and also when you've got all the drivers there, as that was very close to the wall. Sparks flown.
Yeah, from Valentaius of all people. And that was through into Sulman Park before going into the compression zone at McPhillamy, into Brock Skyline, now into the S's. We've got 2 to go after this one, which will give us just over 7.3 miles of racing here at Mount Panorama to conclude round 2 out of 12 for season 2 2026 of Grand Prix Legends live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. And now they've got back marker traffic. Could this provide Hisada with the slipstream he needs? The back marker gets out of the way. That'll be Tobias Harnvey. And now Hisada is through. Cortiniemi is going to go to the outside. Looks like Tobias Harnvey's got no front nose on that Lotus 49. As here goes Hisada again. He's sideways. He's trying to control it under braking into the chase. And Valentaius holds on. Cortiniemi is there with them. 2 wheels on the grass from the man from Japan. He's right up the rear exhaust pipes. Heading down into Murray's corner. He switches to the outside. Can Hisada get the crisscross on Valentaius as the brake disc glow red on the front of the number 4 car? 2 laps remain here at Mount Panorama in what has been an absolute classic. And Hisada to the inside at Hell's Corner. Will he get through? He takes so much curb. He goes onto the grass, and that loses him time. Here comes Cortiniemi. 2 wheels on the grass coming out of the corner. Oh my goodness me, we've got a race on our hands, folks. This is going to be a roller coaster for just under 2 laps. Here comes Cortiniemi to the outside of Mountain Straight on Togo Hisada down to turn 2. Here at Quarry Bend, and Cortiniemi sideways nearly clatters into the side of Togo Hisada, and it went too far wrong for the Finn. And that means that Togo Hisada has a bit more breathing space to continue his assault, his very, very Buzzsaw-like approach towards and Audrius Valentaius for the race victory. Up the hill we go for the penultimate time here on lap 24 out of 25, and Valentaius is just hanging on by a finger thread right now.
Only just hanging on at the moment. Togo Hisada has soaked up all the pressure from Cortiniemi, and he is using it to full effect to throw at Audrius Valentaius with 2 laps to go. Cortiniemi still waiting on the back. I think he's waiting for a move here from Togo Hisada. When is it going to come? As now he's really taking all of the risks, is Togo, to try and find his way past. He is quicker than Valentaius at the moment. He was 4/10 quicker on the previous tour, and he just looks to be the more comfortable, the more settled of the 2 at the moment. And 0.2 of a second is what splits these 2 drivers. They pushed each other so very hard throughout the course of the race. They will push each other so very hard throughout the course of the season. But the Ukrainian at the moment is the one in the lead, but Togo Hisada is the one with the momentum. He's going to pull alongside. It's a high-speed corner that they're heading through, and Hisada almost cuts it to try and get ahead and into the lead of the race, but he can't quite do so. Earlier onto the brakes to try and find the opportunity with a switchback on the exit of the corner. Then he goes side by side through the chicane, which opens up the final corner for Togo Hisada. He chooses the outside line as they head through Murray's corner. They'll go down towards the first, and it will be the white flag wave to start the final lap. Togo Hisada could not pounce on Valenteus. Courteniemi looking to pounce on Hisada.
Yeah, Togo Hisada running in the Honda RA300 colours back from 1967 that John Surtees joined the team that year, having won with Scuderia Ferrari in Formula 1. But Togo Hisada has got Torpi Courteniemi right alongside him to the outside, as we've got, I think that is I'm trying to make out the number of the car in front. I think that Michael Grissinger that's in front, who's got quickly out of the way as the 3-car train at the top of the field continues onwards. Ricardo Espinela Martinez battling away with, I think that is with Pablo Rodriguez Hogla, who's up into P9. But up the hill we go for the final time here on lap 25 of round 2 of the series. And Togo Hisada, it's all or nothing for the man from Japan. He's giving it his all. Topi Courteniemi waiting to pick up the pieces as they go through into McPhillamy for the final time. Courteniemi grazes the barrier on the right-hand side as they now go to Brock Skyline. Togo Hisada has one more chance, maybe two at best, down into the chase and also down into Murray's corner. But Valenteus will be aware that the Japanese driver will put it all on the line to take his first victory of Season 2 as we go through the S's, into the Dipper, into Forest Elbow for the final time. Now it's time to get the traction down and look at Valenteus. He's got a 2-car length lead, but Togo Hisada with a 0.3 of a second differential will get the slipstream as we go down the hill in towards the chase off of Conrod Straight for the final time here on lap number 25. Blink and you'll miss it, folks. Hisada late on the brakes to the outside of the chase. He goes on the defending champion from Season 1. Hisada's going to use the grass here, but it's not going to be enough because he's going to go sideways out of the penultimate corner down to Maurice for the final time. Hisada is going to stretch to the outside. Here we go. It's the run to the line. It's going to be wheel to wheel. Will Hisada pit Valenteus? No, he won't. He ends up third. Valenteus does the double. First Nürburgring combined. Now King of the Mountain here at Mount Panorama.
Perfect start to the season, the Grand Prix Legends season, and the season as a whole for the Ukrainian driver who's taken 4 in 4 at the start of Season 2 of 2026. Nicola Koki is going to come home in 4th place, Jorge Nieva in 5th, and Kevin Verbruggen just ahead of Gary Ho in 6th and 7th place. This fight's still going on just inside the top 10. Hoglar versus Martinez, and Martinez just chasing in. He made his way through on Bill Tyler, and he's kept the momentum up to try and fight. And into the final few corners, these two will come, and Martinez will try and snatch 9th place from the grasp of the number 7 at the moment. You can tell two very distinctive liveries, one yellow, one green, and they are both going to try and fly their way through the final corner. Martinez tries to send it, but he's too far back, and so it will be to the line for Hoglar to take 9th, just ahead of Martinez in 10th. Bill Tyler will round out, will be in the top 11 as Martinez rounded out the top 10. Clapper in 12th, Olsen in 13th, and then we only have a couple more finishes to go before we can round ourselves off for a race. But what a race that was, Alex.
A 3-way fight for the majority of 25 laps here for round 2 of the series for Grand Prix Legends. Season 2 2026 amidst an overcast but very, very challenging Mount Panorama here in New South Wales in Australia. Well, as the dust finally settles at the mountain, we have some results to go through with you all as we're just waiting for the last few drivers to come through. Looking at, drives of the day. Aldris Valenteus, no question. But I have to say, Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar from 38th to 9th. Jason Clapper, 39th to 12th. Both drivers, and I did say with about 5 laps to go, I bet you both those drivers finish in the top 15 and Hoglar hits the top 10. Well, my point was proven, but still a beautiful, beautiful race here at Mount Panorama for round 2 out of 12 for Season 2 of the Grand Prix Legends. Let's take you through the results, and it's Aldris Valenteus, 2 for 2 so far. Nürburgring combined, now King of Mount Panorama. Topi Courteniemi and Togo Hisada will continue their run as second and third in the championship, but it was only less than 0.3 of a second. Hisada went all guns blazing, but he just missed out on the race win. But Courtiniemi pipped him at the line. Nicola Cocchi, who had that big moment with Seb Tixier earlier on in the race, finishes P4, ahead of Jorge Nievo. Kevin Verbruggen made his way back up into 6th, ahead of Gary Ho. Mickey Frierson, the man with the most moves of the day, Pablo Rodriguez Hoglar, finishes 9th, ahead of Ricardo Espinella Martinez.
And that rounds out the top 10. Of course, those two very close at the bottom of the top 10. It was Bill Tyler just outside in 11th, about a second ahead of Jason Clapper in 12th place. John Olsen picked up 13th, and Carl Ridley will come home in 14th place. Laust Olsen in 15th, Eric Leukel in 16th, Will Lamb will take 17th, and Andreas Hecht, Robert Plumley, and then an impressive drive from Bo Poulter. This is all about staying in it. 21 or 22 even positions gained.
Michael Grissinger was the first of the drivers not to finish on the lead lap, ahead of Ryan Turcott, Tobias Harnby, Nick Bubats, Jason Ias, Andreas Bruno, Thomas Tuber. Dramas for the Argentinian Pedro Tamaladri, ending up 28th and 3 laps down come the checkered. Alan Graham and Mikael Zabala, who had that big incident, rounds out the top 30. Then we go over the page to 31st. Seb Tixier classified 31st, 6 laps down, along with Raul Rosses Guardia, who lost his right front wheel. Renato Yankee, Ricardo Ruiz, Sandeep Banderjee, Glenn Becker, Eki Anderson, Yanis Carpentier, Tyler Sheaf and Campbell Wallace round out the top 40, and then with 5 more to go, John Terry, Angus Sweeney, Doug Cloud, Kurt Clapper and Jian Zhang rounded out the field. But still, and Audrius Valenteus, what a defensive masterclass, took the lead on lap 8 and kept Hisada at bay, despite what the Japanese driver threw everything at him, including the NHL, NFL playbooks, and also the kitchen sink for good measure. But still, Topi Courtiniemi steals it by 8/100ths to take P2 after what was such a close race. But we have got some drivers to speak to, and I think, well, the first person we need to speak to, a very good evening to Togo Hisada. Togo, you put in a brilliant lap in qualifying, 4 and a bit tenths quicker than anybody else, but after losing the lap on lap 8, the lead on lap 8 ahead of Aldrius, you fought tooth and nail. Just tell us about the race from your perspective, because it ended up being so close.
It's very intense. Sweating like a lot, and this week is kind of unique, kind of special, because the schedule is a little bit mistaken. The laps is pretty much too long. Like usually, like this series race is like last long with in 35 minutes, or within the 40 minutes. But this week, it's over 50 minutes. So yeah, after I pass it, Aldris passes me. I have a pace to fight back, but I want to wait until last 5 laps, last few laps, because I don't want to get tired before the closing laps. And the top is of course waiting for our battle. So yes, just sitting behind Aldris and looking for the. He's slower part, faster part, guessing everywhere. And even within the last 5 laps, I start to fight back. But he's really great with braking under the summit section. The little bit faster part of the mountain, he's very fast. So pretty much, I have no chance to pass him. The pace itself is very different, but it's very difficult to pass. Under the really struggle, under the top is very clever to seeking. So it's very intense last lap, and it's fantastic.
Togo, you are always Mr. Excitement when we see you race, my friend. I mean, a great effort in qualifying, but still it keeps you 3rd in the standings. Of course, we go from Mount Panorama this week. Next up, the Garden of England, Brands Hatch, a very shorter circuit, but still there there is nowhere to hide in these cars, isn't there?
Yeah, it could be a lane next week, so it's first time to race with lane with these series. So really looking forward to it. But yeah, it's gonna be something. But well, I'm really looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Well, domo arigato, Hisada-san. Thank you so much for providing so much excitement again here at the Grand Prix Legends. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next time for round 3 at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, see you later.
So a big thank you there to Togo Hisada, and standing by with Joe Black, who stole second place, is Topi Kortaniemi.
I didn't steal second place, but yeah, Topi Kortaniemi joins us now, and well, it was very, very close to the line for yourself, but I mean, it was just a very, very good fight indeed between the top 3. How was it from your side?
I was just trying to hang back and wait for the 2 guys in the front to make a mistake, but there's actually not a lot of space to make a move when the opportunity presents itself. So, yeah, I had the chance to catch Audrius when I got past Togo, but I made a couple of mistakes and Togo got a pass on me, repassed me. So, yeah, I had my chance, blew it, but still happy for P2. It was a great race.
Yeah, it certainly was a very good race. And we saw you drop back a couple of times. One of the times there was a back marker in the way and you avoided them pretty expertly. So how difficult was it to just keep yourself going and keep yourself motivated to bring yourself back into the fight?
I know I had the pace, so just as long as I kept it smooth, I knew I could catch the guys with the draft, because I made a lot of mistakes in quali. But Togo's quali lap was something else. I mean, I couldn't have done it, but still I know I had the pace to be in the draft and fight with these guys.
Yeah, consistency is always key. And then, of course, I mean, it's just it seems so very difficult to fight with those at the very top of the field. And I'm sure it's going to be a great fight throughout the course of the rest of the season. You've got Brands Hatch next up. So what's the opinions on that one?
It's a good track, and we got rain. I mean, it could rain all week, every week. I would be happy.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, it'll be our first race since the update that we will get rain at Brands Hatch. But thank you very much, Topi, for joining us, and congratulations on snatching P2 at the death.
Thanks, Joseph.
Well, I don't know if we're going to have an opportunity to catch up with Audrius Valenteus, who continues to lead, coming here out of an exciting 3-way scrap. And when you look at it from this aspect, dramas for Seb Tixier, involved with an incident with Nicola Cocky going into Quarry Bend at turn 2, means that the Frenchman will drop down the table. However, here at Mount Panorama, Valenteus, Kortaniemi and Hisada remain your top 3 after one of the most epic 25-lap long race lead battles. But from here at Mount Panorama, round 3 of the Grand Prix Legends series, next time out in just 7 days' time, we'll head to the Garden of England to Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, taking place on the 4th of April. And don't forget, folks, tomorrow morning in the UK, the clocks go forward an hour. So it will be effectively 1:30 p.m. UTC or 2:30 p.m. UK time, 9:30 in the morning Eastern for round 3 of the series. There's still also plenty more racing coming up here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Later on today, the IMSA Vintage Series heads to Mugello. And then, of course, to round out the week, we hit the streets of Adelaide for the classic Lotus Grand Prix 79 series. Of course, the continuing coverage on Porsche Motorsport North America's YouTube and Porsche's Twitch channels will see us head to the Glen for the next round of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup North America. And then on April the 2nd, we go to Alton Park for the next round of the Skip Barber Race Series. Finally, a big thank you to the team behind the scenes, to Joe, to Christian, to Dougie. My name's Alex Goldschmidt. Well, what can you say? It was an absolute banger here at Bathurst. But who will be the King of the Garden of England at Brands Hatch in just 7 days' time? Well, you can join all the action here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Until then, race hard, race fair, and if in doubt, like here at Mount Panorama, you better go flat out. Thanks for tuning in.